I bid you welcome.
I welcome you to my house.
Welcome to my house.
Welcome to my home.
Hello Horror Hounds and welcome to my horror house. Each Monday in the run up to Christmas I'm going to be revisiting a couple of episodes from the BBC's Ghost Stories for Christmas season, which ran throughout the 70s. We're going to kick off this video with an episode called Lost Hearts, which was first broadcast at 11:35 p.m. on the 25th of December, Christmas Day itself, 1973. Lost Hearts is the story of a young orphan boy who is sent to stay with his much older cousin, second cousin twice removed or something like that, Mr. Abney, in his remote country mansion. There he learns of Mr. Abney's charitable past, having previously taken in a young Romany girl and an orphaned travelling Italian boy. Young Stephen is troubled by visions and visitations from this young duo, and why is Mr. Abney so concerned with Stephen's upcoming 12th birthday? I've got to admit, I know online this episode is amongst the favourites of some people, but I struggled with it. It perhaps didn't help that I knew the story beforehand. I'd heard a radio adaptation of it as well, which was really well done. But I did find that for this TV adaptation, an awful lot of the things that should be revealed through the course of the story were telegraphed way in advance. There are some fantastically effective bits and pieces in this episode, but I feel that ultimately the wrong stresses were put on the wrong parts of the story. So you've got the ghostly kids coming to visit and the kindly, very, very kindly Abney, and it doesn't take a genius to work out how the cards fall in this one. There are times when the ghostly kids work like absolute gangbusters, maybe when they're seen through a window, or the first visitation where they're climbing the stairs is really eerie, a little bit Nosferatu, a little bit the vampire kids from Toby Hooper's Salem's Lot. But there are other times when, well, let me put it this way, there are a couple of times when my girlfriend laughed at the ghosts, and honestly, I can't blame her. Likewise, the ghost of the boy used to play the hurdy-gurdy. And there are times when the hurdy-gurdy music is eerie and creepy and works perfectly. And there are other times when it's unintentionally funny, and that's not great for a piece that's trying to chill you. I'm not going to talk about the plots of either episode in any great detail because they are available for you to see here on YouTube. So if they sound like the kind of thing that you'd be interested in and want to join me in the build-up to this festive season by watching a ton of ghost stories, I'll provide links to the episodes in the description field below. But we're going to move on from Lost Hearts, jump forward a year to The Treasure of Abbot Thomas, which was first broadcast at 11:35 p.m. on the 23rd of December 1974. This episode is part detective story, part treasure hunt, part Jamesian tale of uncanny haunting. In short, it's an absolute cracker. It tells of the Reverend Somerset, a scholar in medieval history, and his young protege, Lord Peter Dattering. They follow ancient clues which are said to lead to the location of the hidden treasure of a disgraced abbot. An abbot who dabbled perhaps in things he wasn't supposed to. A treasure which is said to be protected by a guardian. It was filmed in part at Wells Cathedral, and I must say the use of the locations in this series so far has been spot on. There's so much interesting stuff to shoot that the director and director of photography must have had a field day deciding where to place the camera and what would produce the most interesting shots and backgrounds. It really adds this real world location to the authenticity of the story and helps you completely buy into it. As with a lot of these M.R. James adaptations, the focus is on what is suggested rather than what is shown, and that's exactly as it should be with the source material. it also gives the filmmakers an opportunity to showcase some fantastic creativity when it comes to showing or alluding to the supernatural, the unknowable, the indescribable. There's a scene where the Reverend Somerset is attacked on the cathedral roof, or does he just suffer a bout of vertigo? The scene is cut beautifully with lots of quick edits, close-ups of Somerset's face while he struggles with something. In fact, I think for the filming of it, the actor just put his cloak over his face and sort of pushed and pulled and struggled around with that. The effect, though, is wonderful. Likewise, the depiction of the guardian of the treasure is all suggestion rather than bothering with what would have inevitably have been a disappointing on-screen monster of some kind. Instead, we get a montage of images: slime, corpse hands, a laughing face reflected upside down in a pool of tar. These work hand in hand with previous very purposefully placed shots of big fat slugs crawling across masonry to conjure a monster or an entity in our minds rather than reduce it to the four sides of a small TV screen. Michael Bryant's performance as the Reverend Somerset is the secret weapon of this episode. He plays a man of science and reason and more than a little pride, who is undone and losing his mind through contact with the supernatural in the grand tradition of M.R. James. Top it all off with a stark and ambiguous ending, and you've got the perfect Yuletide chiller right there.